To quote Joe Moorhead, the Akron coach, that was an ass-kicking of epic proportions in every facet of the game.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome. It is Sunday morning after Nebraska's 68-0 win against Akron last night at Memorial Stadium. Connor Happer here from 1620 The Zone, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic here in the Locked On Nebraska podcast. What did it mean? We'll have some time to talk about it if it meant anything. It's nice to get the shutout, though, as Matt Rhule was really gunning for last night. But they put up a boatload of yards and a boatload of points. 728 yards, most in a game since the 2014 FAU game, which was famously more than a decade ago. That was my student radio game, Mitch. Oh
yeah, we mentioned that on the show last week.
Second time the 2014 FAU game has come up on this podcast this week. Most points since the 2012 Idaho State game. I had an argument with somebody in the elevator last night if it was Idaho or Idaho State. I was adamant that it was Idaho State, and they were like, "No, it was Idaho," and I said, "No, it was Idaho State," and they were wrong. So. Take that.
Did you apologize? Did they apologize?
They did not apologize for it being Wyoming or Montana or whatever it might be. So I was right. They were wrong. I didn't even know who this person was. So there you go. Largest margin of victory since the 84-13 win against Minnesota in 1983. And the first shutout since the 2009 Holiday Bowl when Nebraska was back and they were here to stay, but they were not here to stay. Dylan Raiola threw for 364 yards, most since Adrian Martinez threw for 384 against Wisconsin. Nebraska lost by 17 in that game. First 4-touchdown passing game since Riker Fife Purdue in 2015. They lost 55-45 in that game. That game sucked. Nebraska quarterbacks in total threw for 494 yards, which was the second most in school history behind the K-State game in 2007 when they threw for 519. Any guesses as to what happened in that game? Yes. So
Nebraska won that game, but more than 100 points scored in total.
It went well.
I'm not even sure if it was football.
It went well last night. Nebraska was fine or good, and Akron was absolutely terrible, and they won 68-0.
Yeah. So Nebraska has now won 8 consecutive games against non-conference opponents, including the win over Boston College in the Pinstripe Bowl last year. And that is the first time that Nebraska has done that since a stretch from 1999 to 2001. We are not suggesting that because of the 68-0 win last night that Nebraska has returned to 2001 form. And you still have to grapple with what happened in Kansas City in the opener when Nebraska escaped with a last-minute interception. But I guess the question is, which one is the real Nebraska? Is it the team that looked like it lacked some confidence to put an opponent away a week and a half ago? Or is it the team that was dominant in every phase against an inferior opponent, doing what it needed to do to take care of business back at home that we saw on Saturday night? Which is the team that we're going to see over the next 10 games? Like, they're not going to win 68-0 every week, obviously. They're not going to win by 2 touchdowns every week. But is that the team that was the 2025 Nebraska team out there on Saturday night? Or is Akron just so bad that you can't even judge from what you saw?
I tend to lean toward Akron was so bad you can't even judge. I think it's to be determined on whether Nebraska will be that type of, because you're right. I mean, they had a swagger to them. They had a confidence to them. I thought that really showed up after they got the safety when they made it 9-0. They get stopped on the goal line. They get the safety. Cade Petchak breaks through. It's 9-0. And then you felt like the ball was kind of rolling downhill. After that, it was only 9-0 after the first quarter. And that's when I thought they got some real, kind of swagger to them. They got some confidence to them. I just thought Akron, it was especially offensively for Akron, defensively for Nebraska. There's just really not much to take away other than getting a whole bunch of guys into the game. And I imagine it'll be the same thing next week. But the hope is that these two games with Akron and Houston Christian can create this effect where you are walking tall going into that Michigan game. And you could play with your chest out a little bit. That's the hope. So I think they'll have a good chance to do that because there's going to be a lot of points to opponents, very few over this game and the next.
Akron looked like a team that had not practiced, that had not been through an offseason together. It looked like what would happen if you got a bunch of guys together who were football players and you threw it out there in February when they hadn't done anything as a team yet. Dropping passes, running the wrong way, snapping the ball past their quarterback, failing to hand it off, giving up on tackles. Just a terrible football team. But Nebraska did what you're supposed to do against a terrible football team. And we've seen Nebraska teams a lot over the last couple of decades just go out there and mess around. And no, not lose. The teams that have beaten Nebraska from the group of five, like Northern Illinois and Troy, were much, much better than that version of a football team that we saw on Saturday night. But Nebraska has had games against that kind of a team where it just was uninspiring. Yeah. And you walked away from it feeling like, I don't know what was gained from that. How did Nebraska move its season forward? And Saturday night could have been that kind of an event with some of the red zone struggles that Nebraska had in the first half. There was a goal line stand for Akron in the second quarter where Heinrich Harburg couldn't get in on fourth down. Emmett Johnson lost a fumble on an earlier series at the 1 yard line. And I think Matt Rhule and the Nebraska coaches, his coordinators, John Butler and Dana Holgerson, had a mindset in that game, in part because Nebraska failed to put away Cincinnati in the first half, where they said, we're not going to worry about anybody's feelings. This is about Nebraska. And yeah, it's 33-0 at halftime, and we could take our foot off the gas and kind of coast to a victory and maybe win like 40-7. But like, what is that really going to do? What is that going to do for Nebraska when it gets to the Big Ten? Yeah. How is that going to move the team forward? And they said, no, they came here to play. They have to play a full 4 quarters. So Emmett Johnson didn't play in the second half, but Dylan Raiola stayed in for 2 series in the second half. He was running with the football when it was 40-0. I mean, disastrous things could have happened. And even after he went out, they did not stop playing hard. And that may be the number one thing that I walk away thinking about after that game is how Nebraska did not let up, even when its reserves went in the game.
I think, so Raiola threw for 364, as we mentioned before. And I think going into his last drive, it was just under 300. And then he threw it like every single time quickly on that drive. I think there's I think they wanted to have him have a really good statistical game. And they did that. And I think they wanted to pitch a shutout, and they did that, right? So I think there's absolutely something to that. He's been all about this confidence thing and this positivity thing throughout fall camp.
Back to July. Yeah.
And I think they really, really wanted to say, to put up a number, to say we won the game 68-0. There's nothing you could say about us playing with our food or what type of team we are or whatever, what the talent gap is or anything like that, because the result says 68-0 and it's unassailable, right? That's basically as good as you can do. They could have got 80 if they would have punched a couple more touchdowns in where they turned the ball over or didn't get touchdowns inside the 5 yard line, but that's it. So yeah, I'm with you, Mitch. I think they wanted to prove something to mostly themselves that night. And unfortunately Akron had to be the little, the whatever that was in the way of the steamroller last night.
Sacrificial lamb. Yeah, we'll talk about Dylan here in a minute. I want to get more into that and maybe what the message was that Matt Rhule wanted to send, and he said it after the game. But let's give some accolades to Emmett Johnson. We've been accused on this show of being Emmett Johnson haters, of questioning what Nebraska has at running back. I believe that we have long questioned Nebraska's depth at running back and been very supportive of Emmett Johnson and an advocate of the fact that he has developed into a top of the line for Nebraska, Big Ten starting caliber running back. And he ran for 140 yards on 14 carries. So they kept the touches at 15, caught one pass. He had a 47-yard run on the opening possession where he showed a nice burst. Second possession?
He caught 2 passes. So
2 passes?
Okay. Yeah.
16 touches. Nice night. Emmett did what he needed to do, much like Nebraska took care of business. Emmett Johnson did his job, ran hard. I don't think he danced around, or maybe he didn't make some of the cuts that he's made in the past. He just hit the hole hard, and he ran for daylight.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, like, he averaged 10 yards a carry, and I don't think, my complaint about him last week was that I felt like he left quite a bit out there, and you can always go back if you're watching it, like, oh man, he should have gone that direction, because we get to see it from above, and we're like, oh, he cut it back that way,
running back to
cut it back that way, and you got the angle, and it's just it's just not how it works. So I thought Emmett was good, as good as advertised. He's going to continue to be as good as advertised. What last night was about was trying to get some confidence to some of those other guys, and they were able to get him some touches. Maybe not enough, but they spread it around a little bit. But yeah, we'll have time to talk about them too.
Okay, let's come back and dive into Dylan Raiola's night, and also what Matt Rhule had to say about him after the blowout victory. That's next. Right now, a word from Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items for the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. The Part Finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on the job, where every detail matters, and the TradeMaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smooth. Join the free TradeMaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And also, from Game Time, college football is back, and we could not be more excited. Did you see those tailgates out there around Memorial Stadium on Saturday? There are rivalries. We saw that on Saturday. There is energy in the stands. We felt that at Memorial Stadium on Saturday night. Altogether, just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself, with endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to fans. The easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. You're right, that's Game Time. What you see is what you pay. The app makes it simple to get your seat views from on your computer. You can view your seats right there on the app. Take advantage of the zone deals. I love trying that out with zone deals. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and then you save the money. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, we're back. Sunday reaction pod, Nebraska 68, Akron 0. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. A few players we want to spotlight here in this section. Dylan Raiola. He set the Nebraska record in this game, also dating back to the August 28th opener. 20 consecutive completions. That was kind of under the radar. We were not talking after the Cincinnati game about how Dylan finished with 11 consecutive completions. In fact, I would not have guessed that. I didn't know that. So then he went 9 for 9 to start the game against Akron, and that's 20 straight. So that breaks the record held by Dave Hum from 1974. How about that?
Let's go. Yeah. He was really good in this game. And I think it always comes with the caveat of he had a lot of time and his receivers overmatched the people that they were in front of. But like, one of the complaints about Dylan is that he doesn't, it looks like he exercises a lot of restraint sometimes when he throws the football, like not only in the actual physically throwing it, but in the reads and the throws that he turns down. He still turns down some throws that you'd like to see him, at sometimes force. But I thought he ripped a couple through there, and he doesn't put the ball in harm's way much. Maybe
hardly at all last night.
Yeah, maybe a couple times a game. And he's gotten out of it with 0 interceptions so far. And I thought he trusted his wide receivers and threw a couple of them open and made the right plays. And obviously it ended up with a really nice statistical night for him.
Yeah, he right now he's making some really tough throws look easy. I thought the throw that he made to Dane Key when it was 40-0. I say it was 40.
Yeah, it's a great throw.
The timing of that throw with Dylan rolling right. He made a throw to Luke Lindenmeyer where Dylan was rolling to his left and he hit Luke for his first touchdown. Should we mention what happened with Luke Lindenmeyer after the game? I think that's probably worth getting into. Luke Lindenmeyer proposed to his girlfriend, who's a Scarlet. So you had the Nebraska players and then the Scarlets all gathered around in the moments after the game, and Luke got down on one knee and proposed. It was all very, very nice. Lots of cameras, and what a moment for Luke and the Lindenmeyer family and for his now fiance and her family.
It was great. I had no idea what was going on. I turned around because I was out at the middle of the field. I turned around. I was like, what is going on over there? And there he was on a knee, and she did say yes. Now I'm interested in the mechanics of the entire thing, because there was a video where he was like, Rhule, because Rhule knew what was about to happen, and so he went over there and did that, and then she said yes. Like usually when you propose and she says yes, it's like this great, it's you two and you're together and it's like a private, really special moment. In his case, there's a billion people around, and then he has to leave. He's like, I gotta go and do this press conference where people are going to ask me about this. Just very, very odd and different than you and I's proposals, I'm sure.
Yeah, mine was not like that. It was not. She had her girls with her, and Luke went back in the locker room and celebrated with the Huskers. And yeah, a lot of people knew about it. It seemed Rhule knew about it in the summer. And Lindenmeyer told at least a few players, like everybody who came to the stage at the press conference knew about it. And
yes.
So I guess he told the whole. I guess Rhule told the whole team maybe the day before the game.
Yeah, because they all kind of slowly migrated over behind him when he was going to do it. So yeah, clearly something was going on.
Susan Elza, Nebraska's chief of staff, she got some credit from Luke for also being involved in orchestrating this. Maybe she was holding the ring during the game. I'm not sure, but he scored his first touchdown. That's what got me talking about this, which was part of Dylan Raiola's big night. What do you think Matt Rhule wants people to know about Dylan Raiola right now? Because he answered a question after the game where he kind of went into this.
I think he wants people to think that he's the best, if not one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the conference, and one of the better ones in the country. And that's why you put up the stats the way he did last night. And it's not only in the the flashy things that he does, but it's also in the reads that he makes as he processes the game and stuff like that. He's clearly very good at that, and Matt Rhule clearly has a high appreciation for that. But yeah, I think he also probably, I imagine that it gets pretty old when you think you have a good quarterback and all anyone could talk about is how he looks like Patrick Mahomes. I imagine that gets pretty annoying. So I think Matt Rhule is really big on understanding the narratives and knowing what people are talking about. And I think he probably doesn't maybe want people to talk about that anymore.
Yep. Totally agree. He's into, this is a podcast host. He's a college football analyst. Legitimately, if you listen to Rhule's latest podcast, they spent a good 15 minutes talking about all kinds of things that are going on around college football. After week 1, he talked about Arch Manning, talked about the Clemson LSU game, talked about a variety of topics in the sport. And to think that Rhule wouldn't be in touch with what the narrative is around Dylan Raiola, like you're deluding yourself. Through 2 games, Dylan's that only includes 1 game. Well, I can do the math here. He is 57 of 73 for
you need some help. 57 for 73, 607 yards, 6 touchdowns, and no picks.
All right.
That's
up there.
Percentage.
Like those are numbers that put you in the category of the best quarterbacks in the country. And we know he has the arm talent. Yeah, last night was a bad opponent, but other quarterbacks have played against bad opponents as well. We'll see. We'll see about 6 games into this thing when we get to October if Dylan Raiola deserves to be in that conversation among like the top 5 to 10 quarterbacks in the country. But it's not out of the equation. Like that's what he came to Nebraska being billed as, and now he's in his second year where he's got all of the tools around him. He's got the command of the offense. This is Rhule. He said, I think everyone has to get used to the fact that when Dylan plays really well, I don't want to see a ton of wow plays. I don't want to see him running around, throwing the ball sideways. I want to see him play quarterback. And what Dylan's doing is he's playing quarterback. He's elite before the snap. I just hope everybody across the country appreciates it the way I know most of you guys do. He's just getting us in the right play and getting us in the right check. I think he's just so elevated in that regard. He's ascending and getting better every week.
So I'm looking at the national leaderboard for now. Why isn't I'm looking on ESPN? The Raiola isn't on, so it must not be updated for him specifically from last night. I don't know what's going on with this.
They're purposely they're leaving him out. I'm kidding.
They're purposely leaving him out.
Right, but like I can go to the
why
we
the
had
heck
a we
do they not have that?
It'll be updated later today. We spent multiple episodes earlier this summer talking about the Athletic, my company, and the rankings that we did that had Dylan Raiola ranked below Mark Gronowski, the Iowa quarterback, on the QB tier rankings. Sorry, Sam, and the guys who put that list together, but that looks pretty ridiculous right now.
Yeah, it looks real stupid because that guy is not good. So I think we're ready to just about say that at this point. He has thrown in 2 games for 127 yards. And there's been countless mistakes that are in there too. Now, once again, some of this is just what Iowa does. Like Nebraska wants to score. I'm sure Iowa would tell you that they want to score, but they understand that that's not how they're going to win football games. So their situations are a little bit different. But yeah, that looks real dumb at this point. Dylan Raiola is clearly quite a bit better than Mark Gronowski.
Right. That's Sam Kahn from The Athletic and Antonio Morales who put that piece together. And we had Sam on the show to talk about it. And I mean, you do stuff like that in the off season. You use the material that you have at your disposal and you make lists and you make broad assumptions, and maybe after 12 games this season, it's going to look a lot different than what it does right now after 2. But after 2, there's no comparison between Dylan Raiola and Mark Gronowski.
No. When we come back, let's shout out some more guys and nitpick a little bit if we can in the final couple minutes of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. But first, a word from our great friends at The Game Cap. Quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit in the front row at one of your school's biggest rivalry games, which hat would you be wearing? I bet you never thought about which hat you might be wearing, but think about it. Now there's an image in your head. You have the ability to get that hat in your hands right now. For me, it would be hats from The Game. They're not just hats. They are the same vintage styles that fans wore back in the 80s and the 90s. And guess what? They're not like old and tarnished and been sitting in a basement somewhere for 30 years. No, they're brand new and they look fresh as heck. They sent us a couple. I don't have one on me right now, but they look fantastic from the Nebraska side. And they still go for the same price that they did back then as well. When you use the code Locked On, you're going to get your vintage hat for just $16.99. And like I mentioned, they are awesome. Head to thegamecaps.com, thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar retro circle design and use the code Locked On for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. All right, Mitch, who else gets a shout out here? Sorry, I wasn't looking at the screen, so I figured it's who else gets a shout out from last night, a game ball, a helmet sticker, if you will.
I'll follow the lead of the head coach and talk about Cam Lenhart right now. Cam Lenhart was a game captain on Saturday night. He went out for the coin toss. He had surgery on his hand on Tuesday. You may have noticed him wearing some kind of a cast or wrap on his hand, thumb area. And he had that procedure done Tuesday, late morning, afternoon. But he still came to practice on Tuesday on an empty stomach, couldn't eat after midnight, had a little bit of water, and went out there and practiced on a hard day of practice. And then went in for surgery and played on Saturday. So he's a guy who I think is going out of his way to set the standard for Nebraska defensively and as a team in 125 through. You don't need to do that. If you're having surgery, you are excused from practice on the morning of said surgery. And Cam Lenhart was like, no, I'm gonna, and plus it was Akron week. Like they didn't need him out there, but he took it upon himself to go above there.
Played with the club, kind of. It wasn't like a full club, but it was a pretty decent sized cast on his arm last night, on his hand area.
That's cool to see. You like guys who have that attitude.
Well, that was cool. Let me go, since I've made a big deal about this in this podcast, let me go to Quinn Clark, who did not get tackled. He did not fall to the ground when people dove at his feet. And after he caught that ball from Dylan Raiola, a perfect strike, and ended up, hurdling, basically jumping over and kind of, I don't know if it was breaking a tackle, but we have seen Nebraska wide receivers, backs, people with the ball fall when being blown over by the wind, but not Quinn Clark on this night on his 37-yard touchdown catch. Well done by Quinn Clark, who's now my favorite player.
Love Quinn Clark. I love that he had a tribute to his dad, the late, great Ken Clark, in the end zone after scoring. It's the first touch that Quinn Clark has had at Memorial Stadium. He scores a touchdown, looks really athletic and impressive in doing that from 37 yards out, just smooth, and he glided, and he's, oh my gosh, that guy's a backup. He's 6'5", running like that. Like, imagine what he can be like in another year or two with some confidence and experience. And then, like, here's another team thing. We talked about Cam Lenhart. Dane Key, who was on the sideline for that touchdown catch, ran onto the field, risking penalty, to get the ball from the official in the end zone who didn't know why Dane Key was running at him to get the ball. And Dane got it and went and delivered it to Matt Rhule, who wanted to keep that, to give it to Quinn Clark, because they knew, the captain and the coach, how important that moment was for that redshirt freshman to score a touchdown in his first ever action at Memorial Stadium, where his father ran for thousands of yards in the 1980s. So
pretty cool.
Very, very cool moment right there. Are you throwing shade, by the way, at Ja'Cory Barney?
Yes.
Who, 7 catches, 132 yards, had 87 punt return yards. Nebraska's punt return yards of 92 in that game were more than the Huskers total in every one of the past 4 seasons. Barney had 219 all-purpose yards, but I will agree with you, it could have been more if he was a little bit tougher to tackle.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. I just so everybody gets it straight, I love Ja'Cory Barney. I think he's an excellent electric player for Nebraska. And he's a little banged up right now, as we know about. So that
could have something to do with it.
He just seemingly gets tackled very, very easily. I also think while this was Nebraska's best special teams game is in the return game in like years, I still think like it was a take what they give them type of thing, you know?
They should have had a punt return for a touchdown.
Yeah, I didn't think it was like extraordinary. So
no, they weren't making people miss all over the place.
Right, exactly. So yeah, it was it's weird that they didn't do really anything extra to get to the 68 to nothing.
It just illustrates how awful Nebraska has been on special teams in recent years, that you could do what Nebraska did last night, which was mediocre in the return game, and have it be that much better than anything we've seen in half a decade.
Yeah, it was bad. And Akron was absolutely terrible. Also, shout out to Cade Petchak, who got the safety. TJ Lateef, who came in and was smoother than I expected him to be, I think. And those backup
6 for 7, 128 yards, scored a touchdown on the ground, had another run where he got to the 1 yard line. And I think that they still need to go clean up the Akron players' mess on the field from what TJ did to them when he was running toward the end zone to get down to the 1 on that one. I think, again, we've talked about this because I saw TJ play in person last year in his high school playoff season. He can run, and you saw that. Like, he can throw, but he has legit dual threat ability. Dylan Raiola is a quarterback who throws the ball extremely well, and if you need him to run, like, it's going to look awkward, and he can maybe get a few yards. TJ can run. Like, he's a weapon.
I felt like I knew TJ could run. I didn't know that. I didn't know it looked that good from a throwing perspective. I was impressed. I was pleasantly surprised.
I think you were in the room. I asked Rhule last night if it's a 4-game plan with Lateef, because you see him play and you go, oh man, you'd like that guy to be a redshirt freshman next year, and maybe he will be, but they're not going to hold back at all. Like, he'll play this weekend against Houston Christian. I would 100%. Fully expect. Yeah. So there's no holding him back. Like, if he gets in 4 games, 5 games, then he gets in 5 games, and he's a sophomore next year. So I guess you have to do that in college football today. You want to give him every opportunity that he can get. And they have another quarterback coming in next year, and they have another quarterback coming in the year after that. So there's really not a whole lot of reason to redshirt the guy until he gets to like the end of his career, and you go, whoa, wow, if he'd have played in 1 fewer game, he could have another year.
There's also like a boast, when you play a guy in his true freshman year, especially at that position, you're doing a couple of things. There's some good tape now for TJ Lateef out there where he could go take that to wherever. If people call during the offseason. I also think at the same time, by playing him, you keep him closer to you, right? You say, here, this is the path. It's open. It's just you need Dylan Raiola to get out of the way. So it's a both sides thing, and you never really know exactly how that'll go.
If you try to plan for it and you pick a strategy and say we're going to hide him, then that could backfire on you. If you say we're going to play him and he goes out and has a bunch of games like he did last night, and all of a sudden then he gets a crazy offer from somebody to go in the portal in January, then you pay for it on that end. There's just I think you just give the kids the opportunity that they've earned, and that's what Nebraska's going to do with TJ Lateef. He could start, maybe he should start. He should play the whole game against Houston Christian this week. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but in the way that
put up some more Dylan Raiola stats, though, he'd probably
get
300 again.
They are, and this. Well, let's wait. Let's wait and talk about what Nebraska's strategy should be against Houston Christian. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Petchak, and he's the last guy I want to get to because another true freshman. He had the safety. He's a defensive lineman who comes in the game and makes himself impossible not to look at with the way that he moves and like his aggression to get to the football. He's like old school, mean, get after your behind kind of Nebraska defender. And I bet, I haven't talked to him, I bet he's just has got that kind of energy about him when you see him off the field.
Yeah. They got a guy there, I think, that they're going to be able to count on for a long time. Quick nitpicks before we go here.
Sure.
Nebraska only has a grand total of 2 sacks in 2 weeks here. That's something. They got a couple. Ashton Murphy, cool for him.
Yeah,
he got
backups.
one, and then a half a sack by, it looks like, Jordan Ochoa and Sua Lafotu.
Yeah, Dason McCullough should have had one, but he grabbed a face mask unnecessarily.
Right. So there's that, and then you fumbled near the goal line. You aren't able to punch one in, but you do get the safety out of it. So you weren't running at a very good rate in terms of points per possession after the first 3 possession.
They fixed that,
but they got that back by scoring 68.
No punts, no Archie Wilson. Parents came like 9,000 miles to see him play, and he didn't even play. So he probably won't play next week either.
That's a nitpick. Is that a bad thing now that the punter
No, it's not a bad thing not to punt. It's just an Archie Wilson thing.
Yeah. All
right. Watch NBC News. I don't know if it's going to be this Sunday night or next Sunday night for something leading into Sunday Night Football that has to do with Archie Wilson.
They were out there waiting for him after I saw him near the facility afterwards. I mean, that was he's going to be in a lot of places.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back on Monday to talk more in depth about what this means and what it means moving forward. We're going to put Akron in the rear view. We're going to probably gloss over Houston Christian, start to talk about Michigan. It's like a 12-day march to Michigan week right now.
Yep.
And also what happened around the strange sport of college football over this past weekend. That's all coming up on the Monday pod. Make sure you tune in. Matt Rhule will talk to the media after we talk to you. For now, it's another big moment on Locked On because college football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday through the season, only on Fire TV.